This episode is brought to you by Suzy, a cutting-edge market research software platform that empowers some of the biggest companies in the world, like Citibank and Procter & Gamble. To find out more about how Suzy can help you stay competitive, go to tearsheet.co/Suzy. Welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast, where we explore financial services together with an eye on technology, innovation, emerging models, and changing expectations. I'm Tearsheet Editor-in-Chief, Zach Miller. And we haven't not had a podcast over the past 14 months where we haven't talked about artificial intelligence. It's clearly transforming the financial landscape, creating new opportunities for innovation while reshaping customer expectations around speed, personalization, and security. And as financial institutions and businesses are working to integrate AI capabilities, we're also witnessing a shift in how payments are processed, how fraud is detected, and how financial services are delivered. Today, I'm delighted to welcome Davi Strazza, President of North America at Adyen, a global financial technology platform that's at the forefront of this AI evolution. Davi leads Adyen's North America operations, where the company is leveraging AI as their strategic growth driver through initiatives like their recently launched Uplift platform. In our conversation today, we'll explore how Adyen is implementing AI solutions to enable personalization, enhance fraud detection, and automate complex financial processes. Davi will also give us his insights into the state of AI across the industry. We may even get to talk about instant payments and real-time payments if the conversation allows. Davi, thanks for joining me today to discuss these technologies and what they mean for the future of finance.
Absolutely, Zach. Thanks for having me on the show. Excited to discuss AI and how it's impacting the industry with you.
So let's jump right in. So you launched Uplift earlier this year. Could you explain what specific problems this platform solves for your clients and how it may differentiate from other AI offerings in the payment processing space?
Sure. So the right way to think about Uplift is it kind of tackles some of the largest problems in the payments industry. And those are conversion rates. So essentially how many transactions are being approved. It tackles fraud, which is pretty straightforward, and cost of payments specifically. So how much does it cost for a merchant or a business to take a transaction? Those have been challenges in payments ever since, again, we saw the first card transaction coming in like decades ago. And I think over time, the industry has taken many different measures to try and tackle those issues. But the vast majority, if not all of those measures, have been taken in isolation. Mm-hmm. The difference with Uplift is that it really helps merchants, specifically enterprise merchants, find the right balance between all of those variables and get to outcomes that truly benefit their bottom line results. And so, let me unpack that.
Yeah, let's do it.
If you think about a transaction flow. There are a number of different steps, right, between the moment a customer is browsing a website and searching for their product of choice. They go to the checkout, then they click pay. That transaction is submitted for processing. It goes through some sort of risk screening all the way until it hits the issuer of that card or the owner of that payment instrument for approval, right? And so because of the fragmentation in the industry, Zach, there are many different companies and many different pieces of software that are touching that transaction. And there's been several different attempts to kind of optimize every single step of that process, of that journey. And what we saw was that because those steps were being taken in isolation, sometimes businesses were left with results that were not necessarily great for their bottom line. An example, if you have a big fraud issue and you want to take your chargebacks down to zero or to the minimum possible, you may create rules that become so strict that will hurt your conversion rates. But if your systems are not talking to each other, you're not going to know that. You'll be happy with your chargeback results, and you're going to be blind in terms of the impact it has on conversion rates. And vice versa. Sometimes merchants are so focused on growth that they lose track of how chargebacks are evolving, and that can cost them millions of dollars in any given year. And so it's interesting. I mean, when you start to look at things in context and in perspective, you get into interesting discussions where we advise our customers to take more fraud for the benefit of much higher conversion and ultimately better bottom line results. And that is really like the holistic approach that we've taken with Adyen Uplift. There's a lot of details that go into the sausage making. We can go there if you want me to, but this is what really makes Uplift stands out. It looks at the entire purchase funnel, and it uses our entire like AI platform to kind of optimize for the bottom line results.
So it has insights from the entire enterprise itself, the single merchant you're working with. Does it have some carryover in the Adyen network, like also optimizing for some of those things you were talking about?
Absolutely. So there are a few things that make Uplift very powerful. The first is it's built on trillions of dollars in transaction value that we processed over the years. And not only that, but because at Adyen we built direct connections to the networks, direct connections to issuers, in many cases to the source of funds, the data that we get back from transactions is of the best quality. We gain unrestricted access to the data in the ecosystem because of our direct connections. And so as far as like data integrity and quality, we are probably the player that is best positioned in the industry to kind of capture that, right? And so that is number one. The second is because we operate across online, in-store, because we work with marketplaces, we work with SaaS platforms that are embedding payments, we also help businesses with onboarding. We also help businesses with payouts. And so we get access to other data points that are very interesting and important when it comes to identifying an individual. For example, if you are onboarding if you're a seller in the marketplace, there's some KYC that is needed, and you may share a passport, you may share an ID to onboard. And so that is a very important piece of data that we also collect in our platform. And so when we connect all the dots, we are in a position where we can truly recognize customers as they come in, as those transactions come in, right? And over the years, I mean, we've been doing a lot of research and we've been investing a lot in identifying those customers. The bottom line is we have seen over 1 billion unique shoppers in our platform. So essentially, again, one in every 5 or 6 people that are buying products and services on Earth, we've seen them in our platform. So you combine again the trillions of dollars, the 1.3 trillion euros that we processed last year with 1 billion individuals in our platform. It's a data set that allows us to very uniquely separate good shoppers from bad shoppers. And so if you are a business using Adyen, we're going to look at that transaction. We're going to look at all of the different pieces of context around your business, around that shopper. We're going to cross-reference that with our platform-wide data. And we're going to be able to tell, again, is this a good shopper? Is this a bad shopper? If there's a question in terms of which one is it, we can also kind of implement tools to help you fast track the transaction or not, put the right risk processes in place in order for you to get, again, to bottom line results that make sense for you according to your strategy. And so absolutely. I mean, data is a big part of Uplift. Uplift is not possible without the data that we have gathered in the platform.
The financial industry depends on data, but not all data is created equal. Choosing partners who can separate fleeting trends from groundbreaking innovations is more crucial than ever. If you want to unearth what forces are shaping the industry right now, download our guide at tearsheet.co/Suzy. That was going to be my next question. Like, why now? Like, what happened, I guess, in the technology side, the ability to harness all that data that you guys are picking up, that breadth that is so impressive that you just described? Like, what changed now that enabled you to launch something like Uplift? Like, how big a project is that?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think in terms of accessing data, we took the approach of building Adyen, connecting directly to the networks, and so we never really had a problem in terms of accessing data, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, again, we are probably one of the only businesses of our scale that has built a global platform the way we did, without any third parties, without any M&A and intermediaries. Again, that gives us an edge in terms of
Mm-hmm.
capturing data. I think what changed in the past years truly is really technology in terms of how you process that data and digest that data and then translate that data into insights. And look, I think AI really is the fundamental technological breakthrough here that kind of helped us take that leap in terms of how we digest data and translate that to insights. We have always been really big on connecting the two words, online and offline, and looking for, again, all of those connection points to kind of make sense of the data in our platform. Ever since, again, we started to invest in AI infrastructure and train our models in house and such, which, again, it's been a few years down the line. We found that in doing so, we built the ability to learn from every transaction and dynamically kind of route that transaction in the best possible way. That is something that previously was done more in the ad hoc basis.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can do that dynamically. That was really the big leap that happened in terms of how we optimize payments.
The
And that is
dynamic
really
routing.
thanks to the dynamic routing. And
Yeah.
that is really thanks to the investments that we made in AI and how we train our models in-house and build teams around it to kind of help us productize Uplift, which is what we did and launched the product in January.
So can we look a little bit about how you productized it? Like what teams were involved, what kind of resources you used to be able to wrangle that together? I'm curious, like, at what level in the company this was addressed at, like how strategic this product was?
Oh, absolutely. It's incredibly strategic. I mean, most of the teams involved in building Uplift are engineering. I mean, half Adyen is engineering, and many of those teams, engineering teams, are essentially data scientists that are helping us, again, build infrastructure, train our models, and productize Uplift to the point it is what it is today. Um, we think that generally speaking, like payments is only getting more complex um, between different payment methods, between different features and functionality, between regulatory changes. The space is getting more and more dynamic, which in turn kind of creates complexity and challenge for businesses. And really for us kind of opens up opportunity to help businesses, right? Help our customers. And so when we look at what Uplift could do and how we could help merchants with these big problems, conversion, cost, and fraud, and we saw again the early results that we were getting. Like off the bat, we were very confident that this could be probably one of the biggest breakthroughs in the company and the biggest product launches that we had in the company. And we're seeing that right now. I mean, we run a program with 60 merchants, 60 of our largest customers globally. They ran Uplift for several months in a row, and the results we saw from that program are just amazing. 6% of authorization rates uplift in average. That is massive. That is millions of dollars a year for an enterprise business, while seeing a cost reduction of 5% in average as well, which equates to, again, another few $1 million a year. And so if you look at those two elements, right, and you combine that with the easy of implementing Uplift is literally a toggle in our customer area, it becomes a very powerful product. And our customers have been giving us great feedback. There's a long way to go for us to kind of push the product to our entire platform, but the adoption has been great, and we're very confident and happy with the results.
So you mentioned this is as easy as a toggle on the merchant side. Is this something you charge extra for? Is it an add-on?
Yeah, it is an add-on for our merchants from the technical perspective. It's really simple to turn on. A lot of the work, a lot of the routing and the optimization takes place behind the scenes. I think what we see with Uplift is very similar to what we see with pretty much every other product at Adyen. I think we are on the mission to help customers kind of really take strategic value from payments. And so if you look at how that manifests, for every dollar that a merchant pays us in fees, um, we we made it our mission to return multiples of that dollar in revenue to our customers, in bottom line results to our customers. And so the ROI there has been just really incredible. Like I said, if you take an enterprise customer and if you increase their authorization rates by 6%, if you help them reduce costs by 5%, that is like tens of millions of dollars in a year. And that outweighs the Adyen fees by multiples. And so
It also puts a
it,
lot of
it,
pressure on
it's,
you guys to keep innovating, right?
oh, absolutely. But again, I think we we've made the decision early on that we would take the hardest path in payments by building the platform from the ground up and connect directly to networks and issuers and that puts us in a position where we can innovate. We can push these products. Uplift is one of them. Tap to Pay is another one. We're leading the space in US debit routing as well. We're very proud of those results, but we're specifically proud of the impact that those products have to our customers. That is really what drives us.
I appreciate that. And Davi, like having gone through the building out of this product, and now the rollout of it, are there some things you've learned or the team has learned about AI that maybe you didn't know before? You mentioned like the tools kind of catching up to this point in history, being able to enable you to be able to build something like this. I'm curious if there are any takeaways. I'll tell you what's underlying my question. It's like, you're telling me about this work that you do, and I'm thinking about, a traditional financial institution, the conversations we're having about AI. It's really in the conceptual stage where you guys actually have rolled out a product and, delivering it now. And it just feels like there's a lot of space in between conception and delivery here. So I'm kind of curious if there's, I guess, some broader thinking that you've been able to take away from this about the impact AI can have or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah, look, clearly AI is a transformational technology, right? And some people compare it to the internet. Some people say it's bigger than the internet. I mean, whatever it is, like it's really meaningful. I think with my way to look at this is with any new technology, you kind of need to think about how will you implement it and what kind of results you're looking for. It's very tempting, right? I think many companies if they look around, all they're going to see is AI doing this, AI doing that, AI making everyone more productive, and so they get very tempted to start just doing whatever it is to kind of implement AI into their business to help their workforce or something else. I think the approach we've taken is to, instead of kind of make AI the end goal, make using AI the end goal, we kind of ask ourselves, okay, what is really our end goal as a business, right? And if we work backwards from what that is, what are the different areas and spaces where AI can make us so much more productive and effective? And so it really becomes a like means to an end. Like you need to start with a problem. And that's what we did. Like, what are the big problems we're solving for our customers, and how can AI help us, right? And frankly, we found many different areas where AI could help us achieve our goals. But if that was not the case, I think over the years we've proven to be the type of company that would not just invest in AI because everyone else is doing it. And so that's how I look at it. I mean, when it comes to product, great product, great products. They're great because they solve big problems, because they generate great results, and so you have to start with that and work backwards from what makes sense for your customers. That's the approach we've taken, and it's been working really well for us.
Right. So it's not a solution looking for a problem, which I do feel that sometimes we hear guests on the show talking about AI in that respect. Um, I'm kind of curious. Like, you use the word transformative, and we have an inside joke at Tearsheet. Like, I almost never use that word. I have been starting to use it a little bit around AI, given the facts of some of the things that I've seen going on. Um, you were clear. You clearly chose that word, thoughtfully. And I'm curious, where do you think that leads? Like, if AI is transformative, we're just seeing the first early innings of this rollout right now. Like, do you see this as almost reimagining payments? I'm like, I don't even know where this could lead, but I'm kind of curious. Maybe we take a simpler question, like where you see payments evolving to in the next few years.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's take a step back. Like if you look at e-commerce, um, industry average, 15% of transactions on e-commerce they fail. They are declined, and they're declined for many reasons, including fraud prevention, including like technical errors, including, of course, when the customer doesn't have funds in their accounts. And so there's just a lot of money that is left on the table. Like payments is not a solved problem. It's far from being a solved problem. Um, when you think about the retail space, one of the biggest challenges that retailers have is they still struggle to kind of recognize customers as they transition across their e-commerce and in-store environments. When you go to an e-commerce site, you leave something behind, like an email, a like a phone number. When you go to a store, you check out, you leave nothing behind. You are a ghost, right?
Just
And so
fingerprints.
exactly, and so it's very hard for retailers to kind of recognize that you are you, right? And let alone build a profile, let alone like build a loyalty program that is very specific to you. And those are just two examples. But I think as we progress with the use of AI in the payments space and really that broadly in the financial sector, I think we're going to see great results in terms of performance. So again, think of a word where you no longer have transactions in the e-commerce space declined because there was just not enough data to be able to tell if that was a good shopper or a bad shopper. We closed that gap. But there's also a word where you as a consumer, you are instantly recognized as you land on a checkout page or as you walk into a store. And so um, what that looks like in practice is you're always going to find your payment method of choice at checkout. You're always going to be welcomed with like suggestions and products that make sense to you, that kind of are in line with your history of shopping in that store. And so I think we're going to close many of those gaps that exist in the industry today and exist because we haven't really had the technology to help us kind of connect all the dots, right? And I'm talking about the data points in commerce today. And so I'm very excited about it. I think further down the line, um, payments is really going to be invisible. Like we take Uber for granted today, but the
Mm-hmm.
reality is there are many places where you're shopping, where the shopping experience is very clunky. There's just a lot of friction. I think payments is going to go more and more invisible over the years, and consumers will be much more recognized, and there will be great loyalty programs. There will be great applications for fraud prevention. I think the industry has a really interesting opportunity to see like step change in terms of performance and customer recognition, which is really exciting.
Is blockchain involved in that vision?
Well, there are all sorts of things that are involved in that vision.
Mm-hmm.
I think one other truth about the payments space and financial services is it's very rare to see a piece of technology that becomes so dominant that it will take all of the share in that
Right.
market, especially if you look at global scale, right? And so I think there will be competing payment methods, there will be competing rails, there will be competing infrastructure, and that's really positive. We really welcome that shift as Adyen, and I think our role is to abstract the complexity of dealing with all of those different pieces of technology, different rails, and make sure that from a merchant standpoint, they're being really effective. That they're meeting their customers where their customers need them to, and they're doing that in a way that again allows us to focus on their business and leave all of the hard tech and the hard groundwork to us to deal with.
Davi, it's been great talking to you. Thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet podcast today.
Thanks, Zach. I'll see you next time.